My parents had been on the hunt for a rental home for what felt like an eternity. For months, every weekend was a blur of open houses and disappointing listings. My parents had been on the hunt for a rental home for what felt like an eternity. For months, every weekend was a blur of open houses and disappointing listings. Every single place we looked at had some major flaw. It was either an hour-long commute to my dad's office, or it was on the opposite side of town from my school, or it was just way too small for our family. The whole process was exhausting, and I could see the stress building up on my parents' faces. Just when we were about to give up hope, my dad burst through the door one evening with a huge smile. He'd found it. A place in a neighborhood called Willow Creek. It was perfect, he said. Close to his work, close to my school, and within our budget. It sounded like a dream come true. When we pulled up to the house for the first time, I had to admit, it was nice. It had a little front yard with a big oak tree and a welcoming blue door. It looked perfect. Well, almost perfect. There was one tiny, or rather, one very large, very creepy detail. Directly behind our new backyard, separated by a rickety wooden fence, stood an old, abandoned two-story house. It was the kind of house you see in horror movies. The paint was peeling off in long, gray strips. Windows were boarded up or just plain shattered, and the whole structure seemed to be sagging under its own weight. I'm not usually the type to get spooked easily, but there was something about that house that sent a shiver down my spine. A deep, unsettling feeling twisted in my stomach like a warning bell going off in my head. And of course, because my luck is just that great, my new bedroom had to be the one with a direct, unobstructed view of this decaying monument to creepiness. From my window, I could see every rotten plank, every dark, gaping hole where a window used to be. It felt like the house was staring right back at me. "Mom, can't I have the other room?" I pleaded, trying to sound reasonable. "This one gives me the creeps. I can see that place from my window." My mom just sighed, wiping a bead of sweat from her forehead as she wrestled a heavy box through the doorway. "Mia, please," she said, her voice tired. "Your dad worked so hard to find a place we could finally afford. Let's not make a fuss. It's just an old house. Stop worrying about silly things and help me unpack." I tried arguing with my dad, even my younger brother, but nobody would switch rooms with me. I was stuck. After a few days of living there, I tried my best to ignore it. I told myself my mom was right. It was just a silly old house. I made a conscious effort not to look out my window, especially at night. I rearranged my room so my bed wasn't facing it, and I kept my curtains drawn tight. For a little while, it almost worked. I started to forget about the eerie silhouette looming behind our home, until one night when everything changed. It was around 9 o'clock. I was in bed, scrolling through my phone, trying to wind down. I was just about to drift off to sleep when this strange, prickling sensation ran up my neck. I don't know why, but I felt an overwhelming urge to look toward the window. My curtains weren't fully closed, and through the little gap, I glanced over at the abandoned house. My heart stopped. There was someone standing in the top floor window, a dark figure, perfectly still, outlined by the faint moonlight, and it was staring directly at me. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. My mind raced, trying to find a logical explanation. It's a trick of the light, a shadow. My imagination is running wild. But the longer I stared, the more real it became. The shape was unmistakably human. It didn't move. It didn't even twitch. It was just watching. A primal fear, cold and sharp, shot through me. I let out a scream, a raw, terrified sound that tore from my lungs. My mom burst into my room moments later, her face a mix of concern and annoyance. "What is it, Mia? What's wrong?" I pointed a trembling finger toward the window. "There, in the window. Someone's in that house." She rushed over and peered out into the darkness. She stood there for a long moment before turning back to me, her expression softening into a tired frown. Where, Mia? There's nothing there. The window is empty. I scrambled out of bed to look for myself. She was right. The figure was gone. The window was just a dark, empty square again. But I swear, Mom, I saw someone. They were right there, staring at me. She put her hands on her hips. You watch too many of those scary videos on the internet. It was just a nightmare. Go back to sleep. But I couldn't. I knew what I saw. I spent the rest of the night with my lamp on, huddled under my covers, too terrified to even close my eyes. The next night, I was a nervous wreck. As the clock ticked closer to 9 p.m., my anxiety grew. I tried to convince myself it was all in my head, but a part of me knew it wasn't. I sat on my bed, staring at the clock, my heart pounding in my chest. 8:58, 8:59, and then at exactly 9 p.m., it happened again. The figure appeared in the same window. Same spot, same unnerving stillness. This time, I didn't hesitate. Mom! I screamed, my voice cracking with panic. I kept my eyes locked on the window, determined not to let it disappear this time. My mom and dad both came running in. Mia, it's late. What is it now? You're going to wake the whole house. I pointed frantically. He's right there. Look. But by the time they got to the window, the figure was gone. Again. My dad sighed, rubbing his eyes. Mia, there's no one there. But he was. You have to believe me. My mom looked at me, a hint of exasperation in her voice. Honey, it's probably just some local kids playing a prank. You know, with Halloween coming up. They're just trying to scare you. The best thing you can do is ignore it. They'll get bored and stop. Her explanation actually made a bit of sense. It was the only logical thing it could be. Some bored teenagers trying to freak out the new girl. But the thought didn't comfort me. It made me angry. I wasn't going to let some neighborhood punk torment me in my own room. I decided right then and there that I was going to catch whoever was behind this so-called prank. The next night, I had a plan. I waited until my parents were downstairs watching TV. A few minutes before 9, I slipped on my shoes, quietly opened my window, and snuck out of the house. My heart was hammering against my ribs, but my anger was stronger than my fear. I crept across our backyard, squeezed through a gap in the old fence, and stood before the abandoned house. Up close, it was even more menacing. The air around it felt heavy and cold, and a smell of dust and decay filled my nostrils. The front door was slightly ajar, hanging crooked on one hinge. Taking a deep breath, I pushed it open and stepped inside. The moment I crossed the threshold, the temperature dropped dramatically. It was like walking into a freezer. The air was thick and stagnant, and the darkness inside was absolute. It was so dark, I couldn't even see my own hand in front of my face. Using my phone's flashlight, I scanned the entryway. Dust motes danced in the beam of light, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling like ghostly chandeliers. Every step I took caused the old floorboards to groan and creak under my feet, the sounds echoing through the silent house. I made my way toward the staircase, my footsteps sounding unnaturally loud. I was certain I would find some kid with a mask hiding upstairs, ready to jump out and scare me. I was ready for it. My adrenaline was pumping. I climbed the rotting stairs, my hand sliding along a dusty, splintered banister. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. When I finally reached the top floor, I navigated the hallway to the room that faced my own. I pushed open the door and swept my flashlight across the space. It was completely empty. No kids, no masks, no pranksters. Just dust, debris, and the foul smell of rot. A wave of confusion and disappointment washed over me. Was I really just imagining it all? Then suddenly, I heard it. A whisper. So faint, it was like the rustling of leaves, but it was right behind me. I spun around, my light cutting through the darkness. Nothing. No one was there. The silence of the house pressed in on me again, but now it felt different. It felt watchful. A sudden, overwhelming panic seized me. I needed to get out, now. I bolted from the room and scrambled back down the hallway. I nearly fell down the stairs in my haste. When I reached the front door, I grabbed the handle and pulled. It wouldn't budge. I pulled again, rattling it with all my might. It was jammed shut. The same door that I had left wide open just a few minutes earlier. "Hello?" I yelled, my voice shaking. "Is anyone there? This isn't funny. Let me out." My only answer was the creak of the house settling around me. I started banging on the door with my fists. "Please, someone, I'm stuck in here. Help." That's when I heard it. A new sound. Footsteps, moving slowly on the floor directly above me. They weren't hurried or frantic like mine had been. They were slow, dragging footsteps. The sound of someone taking their time. Then another sound, breathing. It was faint at first, but it was getting closer. It sounded wet and ragged, and it was coming from right behind me. I froze, my hand still on the doorknob. I didn't dare turn around. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying this was all a nightmare. The single light bulb hanging in the entryway flickered on and off, casting the room in strabbing, terrifying shadows. And then I felt it. A cold hand, impossibly cold, touched my shoulder. A week later, life in my house seemed to go on as normal. My parents acted like nothing was wrong. They moved through their days with a strange, hollow cheerfulness. In the morning, my mom would call up the stairs, "Mia, breakfast is ready." And someone would come down. Someone who looked like me, who sounded like me, who wore my clothes, but it wasn't me. Whatever was in that abandoned house, whatever had touched my shoulder in the dark, it had crossed over. It was living in our house now. And the real Mia? Well, she never came out of that house again. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.